have the basic functionalities. We're gonna have like the sort of have the skeleton of the app out there. You may not have the numbers yet, but that's fine. Then week 2 we can sort of find a way to inject the numbers in there using a real-time API.
Yeah.
I can tell you of my experience though, like this.
Yahoo, right?
Yeah,
So
Yahoo
we have to
Finance
open
or
Yahoo Finance, right?
yeah. So there are a lot of these kind of APIs. Some of them are more expensive than the others. Some of them are free. So we're gonna find one and we're gonna do that. So
Actually, let's see if there is an API here.
no, you can sign in, but it would just give you my portfolio. Like I can show you what it looks like when you're in there. I actually recommend you use Yahoo Finance. It's very nice. It gives you a lot of the analytics and stuff like that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I don't have an account yet, so
Yeah.
Okay. I can sign up.
Right.
Do I need to sign up?
No, I already have an account. I can log into
Okay,
mine and show you how it looks like later. Yeah.
Okay.
So what do you need for the first week? So what do you need is you need to have at least a code editor. You can use anything. I use Visual Studio Code, but you can use Sublime. You can use Atom. You can use anything you want. So you guys have that installed already? Visual Studio Code?
Yeah, I got it installed. I just did, but I need to restart first. Should I restart first?
What do you need to restart?
Because I just installed it, it prompted me to restart my
Yeah, I think it's fine. You can just ignore that. You don't have to restart. It's fine.
Oh, okay.
Naoko, I think you need to make me like a co-host or something that I can share my screen. Or
sorry.
just right click or just
Here, let me make you a co-host. And Mo as well, just in case, and Aurelia as well.
Yeah. Okay, so let me go ahead and share my screen now. Right. So the first thing you want to have is a code editor. So you want to just open that up. You can open up.
I have to restart. I'll get back soon. Yeah.
Right. Cool.
I cannot open my code editor before restarting.
Okay. But Naoko, do you need to restart?
No, I have this Visual Studio Code. I guess
which looks like this, right?
Yeah. Because you're using Mac, so it's the same. Yeah.
Yeah, it should look the same.
Do I need to do run and debug, or you know what? I'll just follow you.
Yeah. So right now you don't have anything. This is the first time you open up Visual Studio Code, and that's fine. What we're gonna do is we're gonna try and create a folder that we will work within that folder. So whatever code we put into this folder. So we have to create a you can create this folder anywhere you want actually, but I'm gonna go ahead and maybe put them in my desktop or put them in my Dropbox or anything like that, right? So if you want to right click, you can just go ahead and right click and then say new folder and then just create a new folder on your desktop. If you want to put them in a folder, you just have to go to the right folder. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go into one of the folders. So I don't want to put everything on desktop because it feels like it's gonna get very messy soon. So I'm gonna put them into documents. And I'm gonna put them into work, and I'm gonna call it find a cool name for it. Any cool name that you have for that project you want to build? Let's see. Let's say what is the Greek word for June, which is the month this month.
Comparison.
Lunius. Okay, we're gonna call it Lunius because it's June. Lunius. Okay. So okay, doesn't have that directory, so let's go ahead and let's make directory. Obviously you can just use the desktop and just go ahead and just use the desktop, right click and create a new folder. So however you want it. So once you create a new folder, you should be in this folder. You should see that there is completely empty. There is nothing in this folder. So if I open that up on Mac, it should be completely empty. So if you open up that on the Mac, you should be completely empty. So for example, if I go to my work folder and I see this Lunius, there's completely nothing in there. I check that ls means list it. There's also nothing in there. Okay, so that's cool. Now what we're gonna do is we're gonna first create our file. Because we need to create the front end for your app, so we're gonna just call it app.html. So we're just gonna say I'm gonna say touch app.html. Just create a new file. And if you want to create a new file, the other way you can do that is you can just open up Visual Studio Code and you can say open, and you open that file that you created, open that folder that you created. So I created that in the documents work folder. So I'm gonna have to go into documents. So I'm gonna go into documents and I'm gonna go into work. So obviously yours is going to be different depending on where you create that, right? So Lunius, and I'm going to say open. So just do that, like that's the first step. Once you've done that, you should see that either you have nothing in there or you already have a file called app.html. If you don't have app.html, you can create a new file clicking this icon and just put app.html. That's all you need to do. So that's kind of the first step. So what it does is that it creates a file that allows you to put in your HTML code. Then later on you'll be seeing that. Sorry?
It asked me to do like, when I create new file, it asked me to do like the language I choose. Oh, here it is. So just use Python. Okay, got it. All right.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. It asked me to do installing on this. Okay. I already have the Python installed, but it's probably just integrating with the Visual Studio now. Okay.
Yeah, so this is kind of the view you want to be at. Mul, are you back with us already? Mulia?
Let me see. Is he back?
Yeah.
Oh,
Mulia, are you back?
Right.
Probably back, but don't know. Mul, are you back with us?
You're muted, man.
You're probably muted. You're probably saying something, but you're muted.
Hey, bro.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm back. So I create a new project.
Yeah, so let me start all over again. So the first step is to go to anywhere you want. You can do this in the desktop. So all you need to do is to right click, say new folder. That's all you need to do if you want this on the desktop. Now I tend to not want to put things on my desktop because it makes it very messy very quickly. So I went into my documents and I went into like my Dropbox or something. I create a new folder called work. In there I have all my work folder. I create a folder called Lunius, which is the Greek word for June. Just a code name for it. We can change that name later. You can name it anything you want. Actually, you don't have to follow exactly. So name it anything you want, your financial screener project or something. And then within the folder, there is still nothing in it, right? So let me just delete all of this. So I have let me just remove this as well. So I have completely nothing, just a folder. I just created a folder using a right click, new folder. That's all I did. Yeah.
Okay.
So every time you see me create files and create folders, I will use the terminal because I'm faster like that. But if you want to just use the right click function, it's the same thing here. Then once you have that, then the next step you do is to open up Visual Studio Code. Now you just have to open that up completely, not like that, but just open up a new Visual Studio Code. Just double click on the Visual Studio Code and you should get something like this. This is the first screen, the welcome screen, the getting started screen.
Yeah.
Right?
Okay, then different with my view.
You already have a file, you mean?
No, I don't have a file. It just probably because it's a Mac. My view was.
Is it also getting started or no? Is it like that? Is it like that?
Like.
It could
no.
be. Okay.
Can I share my screen?
Yeah, sure. Go ahead. Let me stop my share. What do you see?
Oh, I cannot share it. So can you open the?
Oh yeah. Let me make you. There you go.
Right.
Yeah. Is it the right?
Yeah, that's perfect. That's perfect. So all you need to do is to say open a. So yeah, what you need to say is to just say open a folder, open a local folder.
Okay.
Yeah, and then you move to that folder that you just you move to that folder that you created. What is the folder that you created? Done?
Done.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Now let me go back to my screen.
Yeah,
so
thank you.
Yeah, no problem. So here, when you open a folder, it asks you, okay, which folder, where do you want to create that? I'm going to go to my documents folder. So that's my documents folder. I have a folder called work. I'm going to click on that. And then I'm going to find Lunius. And then I'm going to say open, right? So that's it. Now I have this screen. So all of you should have this screen. Now this screen itself, there's nothing in there. There's just but you can see that the folder that you created, they exist now.
Yeah.
Right? So the folder that you created, whatever you name it, if you name it Lunius, you got Lunius. If you name it something else, you get something else, right? But there is nothing in there. So what do? We create our new file. We create our first file. Now this file, you can name it anything you want, but I'm gonna call it app. So I'm gonna say app.html. That's just gonna tell my system that this is a HTML file.
Oh, okay.
Right. So that's all you need to do to get your first version of app.
Okay.
You should have app.html or something you want to name it, right? Anything you want to, whatever you want to name it.
I made that too already. Okay.
Okay. So now the next thing you want to do, just to make sure you did all of this correctly, just go ahead and put a tag. So you put put a h1 tag and then do a h1 tag.
Yep.
So you do a h1 tag by doing something like that, and then close h1 and just put your name in it. Like if you're Nayoko, you put Nayoko, save it. Just to make sure everything works out. Make sure that it still exists, right? All of this exists. All you need to do is to just right click and then open with a browser. Open with a Chrome browser, open with Opera, open with Safari, it doesn't matter, but open with one of the browsers. So save this file, go back in here, and then just open with a browser. Like if I open with the browser and the browser is Safari, it would show that up in Safari. So you should see something like that. So that's
Okay.
your first web page. You have nothing in there, just your name, but that's the first thing.
Yep.
Got it?
Got it. Yep.
Mulia, you done? You done? You got this?
I'm trying. Yeah, done.
You got your name?
Yeah, I get it.
Okay. So this is obviously fine and stuff, but we want to write a lot. We want to write code faster. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna move to. Hold on, let me see if I have this installed already or not. I have HTML, so I'm going to do that. Okay. So you can keep doing that stuff just like what I did like that. You can keep writing it like that, but there's probably a faster way to code, and that's why you use Visual Studio Code. There's a lot of like auto completion and stuff. So one thing I did was I go to the bottom right and I make sure this is in the HTML setting, this one here.
Okay.
Right? If that's HTML, then what you need to do is to just put H1 and press tab. Tab is right next to the Q key, and when you do that, it opens up and it closes up completely for you. So save you a lot of time. So you can start to write your code. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. So then so if I put a stock screener here, then that would, if I save it and I refresh the page, it would show stock screener. So all I did was I alternate tab or control tab, and then I refresh the page by putting Control R or Command R. So if I write some code here, I say stock screener 2, refresh, it becomes stock screener 2. So you should try to keep both windows open at some point, just so you can switch around and make sure that you've done things correctly and stuff.
Okay.
Yeah. So H1 is basically just the first level header. It's the largest header, and then you can have like H2, H3, H6, so on and so forth.
It's
So
like building. It's like WordPress.
it's like WordPress exactly.
Yeah.
So WordPress basically compile to HTML and CSS, right? But really what it does is it doesn't actually compile, but what it does is that it allows you to specify, write your HTML code, and then it takes that and then it wraps up with some PHP goodness. So you see, like, this is a different H1, H2, H3, H4. There's a few other things you can do. For example, you can say a paragraph. You can say that this is some paragraph. You can put some lorem ipsum, save it, and now you have some lorem ipsum. So that's kind of how you get a very baseline of like the HTML in there. Now it looks very ugly because there's nothing in there. So how do we make it prettier, right? There's some main things that you also will probably come across in HTML. For example, you come across the bullet points. Bullet points goes like, this is unordered list. UL stands for unordered list. So when you put UL and you put a tab, then you can start to put list li. So you said, some item, and if I copy that a couple of times, if I press that, now I see that I have a list, right?
Hey, do you know how I could just like close bracket? Because when I press enter, it actually made the close bracket go down as well. So like, is there a shift enter or like command enter or what
so like
for me to go to the next line instead of
like when you press UL and you press enter, you mean?
So UL tab, right?
Yeah.
I press tab. So let's say I type like whatever ABC, right?
Yeah.
And then if I click enter, it will make the close bracket go down instead of actually like that, right?
Yeah.
So what's the shortcut to like to go into the next line?
So
without
I don't think there's like a shortcut that goes to the next line, but what I do is I hold on to alternate right or command right. So command left or command right would bring you to the end or to the start, and I just press enter.
I see.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that helps. Thanks, friend.
Yeah. So I just put command right that goes to the right, and then I just say next.
Okay,
Yeah. So that's ordered list. Now let's go ahead and make this looks pretty because this one looks like crap. So let's go ahead and introduce the main meat of today's session, which is the Bootstrap 5. So I want you to just open that up. Before we do any of this, maybe all we need to do now is to just remove all of this, just delete all of that. Instead, what we'll do is we use the scaffolding functionality. I want you to just try and put an exclamation mark and then press tab. So
Okay.
exclamation mark, press tab, it adds some metadata on top of that. It gives you a title. So this is my web app, right? So I'm gonna call it stock screener. So give it a title. Now where is this title gonna show? Now the title is gonna show in here in this tab. So if I go back here and I refresh, you see there's a stock screener on your tab. So this is what you want to name your app. If you want to name your app whatever that is, but it should appear in, you know, this would take effect on the tab name itself. So you see that this is called stock screener. Now it's not going to appear anything because everything that you want to display in here, they need to be within the body tag. So a HTML document comprised of the head, which is here, and the body, which is here. So the head is all the metadata, meta information, okay, additional information, but the viewer will not see them. So body is the main body of the website, of the web page. This is where you want to save things. So for example, if Mulia, you want to add a Facebook pixel, where do you think it should go? Should it go into the head or should it go into the body? If you want to add a Facebook pixel.
Facebook pixel is into
The head, right?
the head.
Yeah, probably the head, right? Because most likely you don't want the user to see a Facebook pixel in here. So body is, if I put things in body, it shows up. So for example, if I put Nyoko, then if I save it, refresh it, I see it there. So whatever I put into the body is gonna come up on the web page. Whatever I put in the head, these are information that stores the metadata. For example, this one should be compatible for Internet Explorer, Edge. This one is viewport. Now all of this stuff doesn't really matter to you right now. The only thing that really matter right now is title. So that is the title. Then later on, we will add more things to the head, but right now this is it. If you want to start a Google Analytics account, you can add a Google Analytics tag by putting this in here. So I'll show you very quickly how that's done. So you go to analytics.google.com. This is useful for integration. So I think, you know, it's useful for Mulia especially. So when you want to integrate Google Analytics, you create a nice web app. You want people to start using it. You want your investors to start investing in it. But you want your investors to believe your numbers. So what do? You go to Google Analytics and you decided to, hey, I'm going to create a new asset, right? So how do you do that? So when you go to Google Analytics, there are a couple of things you want to do. I'm going to make sure I don't mess up people's account here by signing out first. Maybe signing out to my personal account. You can also sign in with your own account. And then I'm going to pretend like this is the new web app I'm creating and I'm going to integrate right away. So meaning the moment I'm launched, I have data already. So when you sign up to analytics.google.com, let me open up the chat as well. So I can also maybe put some of this. Open the chat. Where's the chat? Yeah. The chat is somewhere in. Wait. Well, I haven't used. Well, I can't find the chat now for Zoom. Which is strange. Hold on.
Can you use the F3?
Can't use F3. No, not this one. Well, it's cool, I guess, but no, it's fine. I don't know. I can't find a chat now, but it's fine, I guess. If you have questions, you have to ask me now. You have to ask me without.
I'm gonna make you like a host instead of co-host.
I think it's fine. I think it's fine. I don't know why there is no like But yeah, since I can't find a chat, so I'm gonna give it to you like this. So you go to analytics.google.com. It will probably ask you to sign up if you don't have an account. So all you need to do is sign up, and then on the bottom left, once you sign up, you got nothing. It will ask you to integrate something. So you can create a new account and create a new property. So for example, I can create a new property. I can call this my app. So my app is gonna be called the same thing as what I named my folder, which is Lunius. So I'm gonna put LOU NIOS, and you give it a reporting time zone. I'm gonna give it Indonesia, and then I'm gonna say next. Select a category. For mine, it's gonna be stock, so I'm gonna give it finance. So why do you need to answer questions like that? Because it helps you benchmark. It says how is your website doing compared to other finance websites. And measure customer engagement, about small, create. Then when you've started creating this stuff, it would ask you to insert a link like that. It would say, okay, now I need you to set up this link. So you choose a platform and then you put in the website. We don't have a website yet, so we're just gonna put www.lunius.com. And you create a name. This is our Lunius financial planning app, financial automator, whatever you want to call it. Create a stream, and then it give you a simple snippet that you need to install. So it says that, okay, I need you to install this snippet. So when you open that up, when you expand it, it gives you this script. So all you need to do is to copy that script and paste it into your header. That's how you integrate Google Analytics, and your step is done. That's it. So it sounds like it's complicated and stuff, but really it's not. It's like a lot of those things are basically just let me copy that, type that in. So now every time somebody goes to my website and browse things and stuff like that, the numbers are gonna start appearing in Google Analytics, because we just did that. Now you are gonna copy almost all the stuff. The only main difference is this one. So this is my user ID account. This is sort of my Google Analytics ID. So if you copy and paste what you see on my screen, then when somebody go to your website, it will count towards my analytics, my view. So you don't want to do that. So you want to go and sign up for your own Google Analytics account, go through the steps that I just mentioned, and you're gonna get a different tag ID name. So you don't blindly copy the GT1YF thing. Yeah, because if not, then all your visitors are gonna count as my visitors, because Google is not gonna think that, oh, that's a separate app. Okay, so we don't have to worry about all of this now. We just have to worry about creating our web app right now. So we take things one step at a time. So just to make sure nothing is in the body. Now the next thing we want to do is we want to make sure that we install Bootstrap in it. So prior to 2012, 2011, the way we do that is we go online and download a copy of Bootstrap. But today we don't do that anymore. Today we just use something called a CDN, which is to just use a hosted version of that. So for example, what I want you to do is to just Bootstrap 5 CDN. I'm just gonna say CDN, and I'm gonna click on the first result. So this is the link I'm gonna get. This is why I really need the chat. So let me see if I can try it, because if not, what
is it in your second screen, bro?
No, I only have one screen, which is which is why I'm a bit puzzled. Can you say something on the chat? Let me see if something pops up.
Let me see. Chat.
Yeah, where is the chat, bro?
There's no chat, right?
Shit. I also don't have it, man.
Yeah, see, bro, no one has chat, man.
I don't have it.
Do you have chat, Aurelia?
No, I don't have
Yeah,
it.
no one have chat. Zoom went wrong.
Zoom removed the chat.
Zoom removed the chat. It's now a
This is
premium
the
feature
setting,
now.
I think something is the setting on my account is chat is disabled.
Oh yeah, you disabled chat, bro.
Bro.
Oh. Hold on. Shit. How do I make this chat not disabled? Oh, I have to go to freaking. Okay, let me log in and like do this.
Well, it's fine then. It's fine. Let's just use this. Let's just use my screen now for.
But just use WhatsApp.
But okay, you guys find Bootstrap 5.0?
No, I don't have
do
it.
Do a Google search on Bootstrap 5 CDN. Do you see that?
Bootstrap 5 CDN.
Yeah, type Bootstrap space 5 space CDN, and click on the first result.
Bootstrap 5.
Okay. Got it?
Yeah.
Bro, by the way, before we move forward, I cannot make my code editor becoming HTML like that. So when I do exclamation mark, it doesn't complete the format.
What do you see at the bottom right? Do you see HTML here?
No, at the bottom right, there's only SPC and CRLF.
CRLF.
CRLF and SPC.
And SPC.
Yeah.
Can you share your screen then?
Yeah, sure.
Let me stop my screen. Share.
Yeah.
Okay, that's because you're not using Visual Studio. Wait. It looks like you're using Visual Studio instead of Visual Studio Code.
Oh yeah?
Yeah.
It's a Visual Studio Code, no?
Okay, go ahead again. File, new file. Okay, that's the app.html, right? Yeah. Bro, this definitely doesn't look like Visual Studio. So it's definitely not Visual Studio. I definitely not Visual Studio Code. I think you're in Visual Studio. Can you close this one out? And this is your folder is called Visual Studio Code, so you think that you're in Visual Studio Code, but the application is not. Can you show me the application that you downloaded?
Wait, let me stop share first. Let me.
The application you installed is probably in Visual Studio, not Visual Studio Code. That's a different IDE.
Oh.
I just turned on the.
Yeah, see,
Just
I saw it already.
option.
I saw it already. You see Visual Studio 2019? That's not Visual Studio Code. So
Oh, it's a different thing.
it's a different app. Yeah. So this is a full-fledged IDE. It operates slightly differently, but I'm using Visual Studio Code right now. So your user interface is looking so different because of that. So
Oh, okay. No.
best thing you can do is to just go ahead and download Visual Studio Code first. Download VS Code.
Okay.
Code.visualstudio.com. Download.
Oh, that's why.
Yeah. So do it from code.visualstudio.com. It's not gonna be called Visual Studio 2019 or something. And
Okay.
the logo is also blue color, not purple color. The purple color is a different Visual Studio. That's a
Got it.
okay. Yeah, you try that,
Okay,
and you're not gonna miss out a lot of things.
Yeah.
So Naoko, once you're in here, you see when you click into the link, do you see that? Do you see this page here?
I've downloaded the. Oh, okay. So I go there. Okay. I thought you want me to download. Okay.
Right? You
Yep,
saw the
I
link.
see it.
Yeah, right? So all you need to do, this is gonna give you the HTML, this is gonna give you the CSS style sheets, and so we're gonna do that. We're gonna copy that. So there is a copy button already. Or you can either just copy, right click copy, or you can just click on that copy link
Yep.
one, and you go all the way to the head and you add that into your head. So just add that and then tab it in to make it nice and pretty like that.
Okay.
Done? Yeah. Then click on Ctrl S or Command S to quick save to save your document. Okay. So if you go ahead now and you put H1 and you put your own app again, so we're gonna call it Juniors Lunios, LOUNIOS financial planning. Save it again. If you go and look at your app again, you should see that the font looks a bit different compared to the initial one. Do you see it?
Yeah.
Right. So now what is happening is that Bootstrap has its own set of systems of designs and stuff, and what you do is you basically say use the design system. So it adds some style onto it. Typically people want to do things like adding their own style, and you have style something, you can have things like that, and you can have color, and you can say color equals to, let's say, blue violet, and we say save, and then you have the color coming up. But really we don't want to do this for all the different elements because there will be too much of that. It would be very unproductive. So what we instead do is we use style sheets. So here what we're doing when we do that is we're just saying that's a style sheet. Now so let's go ahead and add a few of that to make this look like more like an app before we start to build the functionalities. So go back to Bootstrap and search for the nav bar. So nav bar means navigation bar. So click on nav bar, search for nav bar, click on nav bar. You should come to the nav bar page.
See it?
Do you see the nav bar page?
Yep.
Right. Now scroll all the way down and maybe find a simple one that we find something simple. Maybe find this one, right?
Nav bar, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
find a nice nav bar and just copy the entire nav bar and just paste it into the body after your H1. So just do it like that.
Okay.
If you do this and you go back to your start screen, you should see your nav bar coming up. Now it's time to delete your H1 and just give your nav bar the right attention at the top. Then change the first one here to call it your app, whatever you want to call it. So I'm gonna call it Lunius, but that's because it's, I don't have a name for it. So you should get a nice navigation bar like that. You see that?
Okay, got it. Got it, bro.
Yeah, there is a few things you can do. For example, if you want a dark setting, all you need to do is to change the light to dark. So nav bar light become nav bar dark, and then BG light become BG dark. So you do that, that gives you the background. BG stands for background, it becomes the dark background. So background, dark background, navbar. Now you have a pretty, and with a dark background navbar. You see that?
Nice.
So go ahead and just change it. If you don't want the features, you can remove that. If
Wait, how did you find that on the navbar page? Can I see your page again? Like
you type Control
color?
F and search for navbar dark. Type
Oh,
Control
okay.
F. Control F will bring up the search function, the find function. Then you type in the Control F, Command F, and then type navbar, and then put the
Oh yeah,
dash dark.
I found navbar, but I mean the color one.
Oh, this one?
Color schemes. Okay, that's what it is.
Yeah, color schemes.
All right, there you go. Found it. So I just replaced that. Copy. Yep. All right, bro. Got it.
Okay, Mulia, are you done with the Visual Studio Code? Have you got that installed?
Yeah, I already copied the navbar as well.
Wow, that's fast. Okay, so you have this coming up ready?
Now that I'm in this view, how did you open in browser?
Okay, so you open in browser by going to where the folder is, and then you click on that HTML file, right? You right click and then say open with
Okay.
browser. Open with whatever
Yeah.
browser. I'm using Brave, but you can use anything. Can you try that?
Cool. Yeah, I got it.
Okay, so now we already have a main bar, which is nice, but we really want a few more analytics to our dashboard, because like that, nobody would pay us money for it, right? This is very bland and nothing in there. So let's go ahead. Next thing we do is we're gonna add something like a hero.
I must have done something wrong here because as soon as I saved it,
right?
the navbar turned dark, but the link on the menu disappeared. So
can you let me think. Yeah,
I'm just gonna undo this, and then I'm just gonna redo it again.
Yeah, to undo it is to Control Z.
Control Z, yeah.
Yeah, and then Control S again, save it again.
Yeah, so it went back, but yeah, anyway. Okay, no worries, man. I'll figure this one out.
Right. Now
I wanna slow down.
Yeah, now what we do is we're gonna go and add a few more items. So for example, I like something like that. I want to show a quick preview of our analytics, right? I want to show like, okay, this is what we're gonna do. So what we're gonna do is if I inspect that very quickly, I want to see what does that look like. So I see that there is a heroes example. Okay, there's the centered, this is the bordered bottom. So yeah, so I don't want to maybe jumping ahead of myself. So instead, what we're gonna do is we're gonna go back to the Bootstrap. We're gonna find some other things we want to add to it, but mostly we're gonna try and see how do we complement that. So let's go back to our navbar. Now this is all the components that you have in there, right? So we're gonna find and add a few more things in it. So let's go ahead and click on the layout first. Let's add a container onto it. So to add a container, all you need to do is to create a div class with the container. So there is really nothing fancy. So all you need to make sure here is that you want to properly align all the things here. So if I have my nav, then I want my nav here to be somewhat aligned. And then you see that Visual Studio is going to make your life easy by allowing you to just click on this and then just scaffold the whole thing out. So you don't even need to expand that. You see that? But the thing is that you don't actually remove any code because it says from 18 to 33. That's everything related to the navbar. Except now I'm done working on it. I don't need to see it. So I just close it out. So I can open the next one here. So from line 34 onwards, I'm going to put in my own code. I'm just going to close out whatever there is in front, between 18 and 33. And I'm going to go ahead and create a container. So I say div class container. And now I created a container to put my items into that container.
Okay.
Yeah. So if you want the container to be fluid, meaning you want it to auto resize and stuff like that, you can add fluid later, and we will probably do it as well, but for now we don't have to worry about that. And then we're gonna go and add add a few components or add a few contents. So let's go ahead and find
shit, this is cool. This is all like HTML codes already available to
available to you. So let's go to add a big h1 here. Let's add a big display heading. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and add a h1. So h1, I'm gonna give it a class. So if you put a h1, it gives you this, right? It gives you the h1 tag, right? If you put a h1 dot, then you put the class of that as well. If you are lazy, you don't have to worry about that. You can go ahead and do it
Wait,
like that.
can you sorry man, can you go back a bit? So you create a div class container. This is basically like you're trying to divide between the first part of like the navbar and the new, this is a new section basically, right?
Yeah, so I'm trying to create a new section to hold code within this section. So I can only, maybe add elements to it.
Okay, got it.
Yeah. Then here you can put display one. Now, how do you get display one? Because that's literally on the website here. It says if you want display one, it gives you this version, which is nice and big. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah. So here you can put something like, I don't know, we can put our balance maybe. This is how much money we have left in the account. We can save that. So all these numbers are fake right now, but later on we can obviously make them put in our Python logic in it and make it real. Right now, just put in some random numbers in there. It doesn't matter. But this is kind of like the account balance.
Okay.
Okay. And then we can go ahead and add also a lead. So we can go down here and say add a paragraph. A paragraph in HTML paragraph is called P. So P for paragraph. We can put in a simple lead. Lead is just the Bootstrap way of saying make it somehow stand out a little bit. So we're gonna say, you know, your balance, you are in the top 2% income category group for your age. Yoo-hoo. Or something, right? So you're just gonna create a very simple paragraph that says something like that. So I just have a simple h1, which is the largest heading, and then I can add a simple description at the bottom.
Yep.
Then we're gonna go and add a table. So click on the tables on Bootstrap. So on the left hand side, there's a content, there's a table. So I want you to just find a table that you like. It doesn't really matter what table you pick, but just pick one. For example, I can just copy the table that I see in here. Just copy all of that and then go down to this P, and then add the table right in here, like that. Right? So add a table right in there, it will give you all of this. If you were to save it and you were to refresh it, you should see it coming up like that.
Yep.
Right? And I'm gonna make the table look a bit darker as well. So I'm gonna go and add a table dark and table stripe to make it have alternate colors between them. So after class, I'm gonna add table dark and table stripe. If I refresh my page, it should look like that.
This is still within the same div, yeah? The same div.
Yes, I put everything within the same div. Yeah.
Okay, got it.
So if you notice that right now, a lot of these things are really very responsive. You see that? If I use it on a mobile phone, my app doesn't break. It doesn't go and scroll into like, it doesn't, you know, just go into nowhere. It scales very beautifully. Okay, I'll stop here a bit to see if there are any, like maybe any of you are. Mulia, you doing okay so far?
Yeah, I'm doing okay.
Yeah. So now obviously this is let me explain that a little bit. Yeah. H1 stands for the first level heading. P is a paragraph. Then there's a table. Then there's a table head. Now within the table head, you have an open table head and there's a closing table head, just like every other HTML element. Everything always have a start and an end. So when you have a start H1, you have an end H1. You have a start P, you have an end P. So you have a T head and you have an end T head. Now everything that go in here, that would be translated as the header of this. So if, for example, if I want to follow Yahoo Finance, I'll probably have stock symbol. So I have a stock symbol, and then I have the maybe I have the average cost, because if I buy, you know, 5 times, each time I buy a different cost of, let's say, the Facebook stock or Alibaba stock, every time I buy a different cost, then I want to have average cost. Probably I want to have something like PE ratio. I don't know, but let's just give it PE ratio right now. So so these are gonna just, and you can have as many as you want. So I'm gonna go ahead and create another one. So I'm gonna have 4. I'm gonna say total returns so far. So I want to see what is the returns on that. So I'm gonna have symbol, average cost, PE ratio, total returns, and then I have a few rows here. So I will have to make sure each row have exactly 4. So I'm gonna go ahead and do 1. And what is the total returns? I'm gonna say plus 6.7%. And then what about the total returns for this one? I'm gonna say minus 0.3%. And finally, this one, I'm gonna give it another plus 4.4%. Okay. So I'm just creating 4 columns with things like that. So there's a symbol. I want to change the symbol to maybe have it make more sense. I'm gonna change it to FB, and then AAPL, and maybe what else do we have? RTX. Okay. Right, so now we have the symbol, we have the average cost. So obviously all these numbers is something we're gonna have to learn in module 2 about how do we pull API and fit the numbers, the actual numbers in here. But for now, you're learning about creating a prototype of your app. So you don't have to worry about, oh, but they're not accurate. Don't worry about that, just random numbers here.
Okay, got it.
Okay, so far?
Yep.
Right. Then if you go back to your
okay.
Yeah, I still following.
Yeah. So if you go back to the tables, you see there are a lot of other things you can do with the tables. For example, you can maybe even have you know, like something that looks a bit, I don't know if it's more modern or less modern, but if you want to change things without, let's say for example you want all tables to be more compact, you can add a table dash sm. Sm stands for small. In the language of Bootstrap, sm is small. So when I do something at table sm, all my table is gonna become more compact. So let me show you how that looks like. If I'm gonna add a table sm after that, save it, then if I refresh my page, bam, it's more compact now. So I don't know if that's a nice thing or not a nice thing, but it's an option that they provide to you. So it says here, add table sm to make any table more compact by cutting all the padding in half. Yeah, there's also vertical alignment. How do you want to make that align and stuff? There's all these things that you can do. So it gives you a lot of these functionalities out of the box, right? So very, very cool. There is a caption at the end that allows you to sort of like maybe, I don't know, you can maybe put a source in here. So I can have a table class, and then so you see that after table, I can add a simple caption that says this is the source. I would say this is from Algorithma Financial API. Something like that. Don't know. You can give it your own name. But here now you have a simple caption of the table.
So Sam, I'm a bit for HTML I'm comfortable with this, right? But I'm a bit confused on like when people have like this CSS, right? CSS is a separate file of its own, right?
Yeah.
But this one also has a CSS built in the styling inside the HTML. So like, is the language different in the CSS than in the HTML?
No, they're not different. So for example, if you see what gives you all these functionalities is this line of code. The special recipe that makes all of this possible is this line of code, right? So what exactly is this line of code anyway? So if you were to copy this, just copy this and put them in the browser and save it and run it.
So it's like a CSS on cloud.
It's already a CSS that is already on the cloud. It's a CDN. Now, why do we use a CDN? Because it makes the website faster for a lot of people. Why? Because this person doesn't have to download your version of Bootstrap, because almost all the websites he's gonna go to will use Bootstrap. If you design on Algorithma, if I go to algorithm.ma right now, and I go to algorithm.ma right now, and I look at the source of the website, I will see that it also uses Bootstrap. So because everyone uses Bootstrap, so there is a good chance that your visitor, the end visitor, already have Bootstrap on his browser, because any website that he goes to already have that. So doing something using CDN sort of take away the need for you to keep downloading stuff onto the browser, and it makes it faster.
Okay, something new that I learned today. Okay, cool.
Yeah, so those are one of the few reasons why you want to use CDN. There's a lot of other benefits, but if you look at the algorithm.ma and you click into right click, you click on sources, you can see all of the code in here. And if you go and slowly inspect it, you'll find like Bootstrap and stuff, and almost everything you go on the internet, you see all of those things have Bootstrap in it.
Okay. So basically, the CSS is already there, the styling guide, but these are the codes of that CSS. These are the Bootstrap is all the codes in Bootstrap are basically
everything is
I understand.
Everything is through classes. So for example, but you can override that. So for example, I could go in here. Let's say I want to override the color of this. This is a H1 display one, right? So I can actually go ahead and actually create a file, and I can call it my custom CSS. So custom.css, and what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go to the right of it, and I'm gonna say for the h1, if the class is display -1, then I want to give it a color, and I'm gonna say color would be, let me find a good color, tomato maybe, something like that, right? And I save that. Then if I were to do this, then all I need to do is to link my custom.css with this. So all you need to do is to just add this after the link.html. You say link, and then here is the style sheet. Where do we reference it? We say custom.css. So I'm gonna say that custom.css, save it. If I refresh it, bam, you see that? So I can sort of override that. Now the big benefit of using Bootstrap is that you can delay this whole custom CSS thing, because a lot of the CSS styles are already provided to you. So they're provided to you, all you need to do is to use the right classes.
Okay.
Yeah, but if you want to change that to your own, you can. So let's say we go back to our grid and find like a few colors that we use a lot. So we're gonna use exactly the same color and change that. So let's go to org.ma. Now let's say we want exactly this color. So when you inspect that color, when we say right click inspect, we will see that this will open that up, and this is the color. We just have to copy that, and we change this into this color. And then if we refresh the page now, bam, now this is exactly the same color as this. Okay, and so that's kind of what it's doing.
Cool. This is the CSS is a new one. HTML, I think I use because of the WordPress.
Yeah.
Sometimes I have to understand it, but like the CSS was the one where I'm confused, like how to use it.
Yeah.
But this is cool. I learned this one new.
Yeah, so if you wanna really try and get fancy and stuff, then what I recommend is to get very comfortable with inspecting and then do the code later. So for example, you right click on this, click on inspect. So right click inspect, it gives you this on the bottom right. Then you change things. For example, I said font, let's say font size. I make it, let's say 2 emphasis. Then I said, oh, that's too small. I go up to 12 emphasis, that's too much. Then I change and play around with it. I said, okay, maybe 6. Okay, 6 is fine. And then I want to make sure it's a little bit thicker, so I give it a weight. I said this is probably okay, but maybe 400 looks, maybe 500 looks okay, right? Changed it to maybe 700 looks okay. So you change that a little bit, and maybe we can also give it a text decoration and give it a dash, give it an underline, overline, something like this, underline. Okay, that when you're happy with all of this, then you copy this code, copy all of that, and then you paste it into custom and you save it. Because now when you refresh the page, now it's exactly the one you want, right? So and you can change around very quickly by just clicking on the color picker, and you can pick a color that you want. So you can click on the color picker and you can say, well, I want exactly this color, like that.
Okay, cool. All right.
Right? Then you said, okay, this is the color I want. Then you replace that. So this gives you a lot of power, a lot of flexibility in exactly getting the style you want. Like this is the style I want. Very bold, very big fonts, very clear, and you're happy with that, then that's good.
Okay, sweet. So how you do it is you right click on it, inspect, and then you go to the elements, H1, right?
Right. It should already, if you right click on that element, it should already highlight that and give you the styles on the right.
Right. Okay. Got it.
Yeah. Then you just have to figure those things out and add those figures and play around with that until you
so that's like H1, and then when you click H2 on the CS, when you type H2 on CSS, it will automatically, like any H2 that you type into the HTML will have that style as well.
Right. That's correct. So if I have a H2 style as well, and I said I want this to also be a font weight of 700, which is also very thick, then every H2 element in here would then take that style. So if I go in here and add a H2, right? If I said H2 and I add a H2 tag in here, I said breakdown, or your investments breakdown. Now if I go ahead and run it, save it, you see that it's also a big font weight as well.
Okay, got it. Noted, man. Thanks.
Sam.
Yo.
How is your everything is indented already?
My indented. Oh, my file here?
No, I mean the resulting tables and all those H1.
You mean like why is it already aligned?
Why do you have margin from the left?
Why do I have margin on the left? Okay, That's because when I use the bootstrap from this area, the bootstrap CDN, a lot of these already inherit those styles. Now if I show you what happened if I remove this class container, see what happened here if I remove this. Just remove that, save it, refresh. You see that? It's gone. Why? Because I added a class container. And what does the class container do? Now let me remove class container again and add my own class. I said I'm gonna call it Kelvin's content. And if I go in here and I add .Kelvin content, and I do that, and I said, okay, I want the margin on both sides to be about 5%, and I save it. Now if I refresh the page, let me save this as well, refresh, see that? I still get the same effect. Because the thing is that I actually added, I add a margin of 5% on both sides and top, right, bottom. If I make this 10%, let me show you a very extreme example, 10%, you see that? Even more margins on both sides, on all sides. But Kelvin content this is the class, so I need to add that onto the div class. Now the thing is that most people probably doesn't want to do things like that. They just want to use a solid framework that already provides for all of these functionalities. So that's why when I put container, now container is one such thing because Bootstrap provides container, and container already provides the margin for you. So if I run, you see that? It still gives you the same effect. But you could achieve this by your own, just putting your own CSS, meaning you can actually achieve all of this without using Bootstrap at all. All you need to do is to write your own code and then put your own classes and do it like that. Save it here, run it, 0, maybe 10% on both sides, and then maybe top left, bottom, maybe 5% on the other side, like that. Okay, save it here, and
there's a typo on your container name.
we need to put content, yeah, container.
Oh yeah. I was wondering why our result was different. It turns out I was using the container fluid instead of the container.
Yeah, container fluid is slightly different, yeah, but container, yeah. That's
thank you, sir.
Yeah, no problem.
Okay, this class that h1 class this.
So yeah, so let's save everything again. Right now, this is our container. Well, we really don't want to change the margin like that, so we're just gonna refresh that. So this is kind of how it looks like right now.
Does it matter if I put the h1 class before the div class or after the div class?
It doesn't matter.
Right?
It doesn't matter, but the thing is that everything you target in the container, for example, I can do something like that. I can say dot container, and I can say after everything within the container, for example, every h1 that you see in there, give it a color of blue. Now, thing is, if I were to do something like that,
okay,
this will change it, but I think you don't have to put the quotation, just color blue. You see that? But if I move this out of the div, now it won't target that. Why is that? Well, because the blue only applies on elements that match this condition, which is container, within container, any h1 type that you find. Well, this is not within the container. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Yeah. So it depends on how you want to structure your app. It depends on how you think about your app. If you feel like, oh, it should
What's
all
the best practice, man?
What's the best practice? I like to put everything in the right container. So for example, this is the container. Then later on, when I build up another feature, I'm gonna create another container, and this time I'm gonna give it another, and all the other things like that. So like nothing should be outside the container. In my own, like this is how I would do it.
Okay.
If you build it out there, you also need to take care of the margin as well. For example, now because it's outside of the container, you also need to add its own margin. So you need to give it a margin left of maybe 4 or something. It probably won't work like that. You need to give it its own. You need to target its own, like h1. Yeah, you need to do your own stuff to make sure that it also aligns nicely. If not, it looks like they're completely different pieces, right? So so for that reason, I'm gonna put that into the container.
Okay. Yeah, got it. All right.
Right.
Cool.
Yeah. So let's go back to our did I just let's say Bootstrap 5 again, CDN. Let's go back to this one. Let's go and maybe add a simple form at the end, so people could enter their own stock ticker. Like I wanna use this stock ticker or something. So the way we're gonna do that, we could maybe just create a simple form first. And so what we do is we're gonna just go and copy one of this. So you can either copy the one at the bottom or the one at the top. I'm just gonna copy the one at the top. So that's the one. So this gives you the form. if you click on the form, under overview, you should see a lot of example. We don't need all the example. We just take any random one. So if you want to take the first one, you can take the first one. Just take the one from the form to the end of the form. And then I'm gonna put them in its own div as well. So now that I'm done with the earlier div, I'm gonna also close this up so things are not messy. I can see this is my stock.
Did you choose the password one? The very first one?
Yeah, I choose the very first one.
Okay, okay.
Because it doesn't matter now because I'm going to remove the email password. I'm going to make it stock ticker and let them select that.
Oh.
Yeah, so here I'm going to say add a stock. Add stock to screener, something like that. And then within the div, remember now we are working on the second div, the third group. The first one is the nav bar, and then we have the container. Now we have a simple form to allow our user to add their own stock picker. So if somebody wanna start to monitor this stock, let's say you want to put this on a watch list, so to speak. You say, I wanna buy Lockheed Martin at some point, but not at this price. So you want to put it to your watch list, for example. So this is gonna be called add stock. I'm gonna put the form and just copy everything I got from the website, save it, and just to make sure everything looks good, if you refresh your page, you should see something like that, right? I'm gonna give it a h4 somewhere here and say add stock to watch list. So that's gonna give it an add stock to watch list. That's gonna be fine. And so obviously I'm not gonna need the email address and all that stuff. So we're gonna remove them very quickly. But I want to just give you a second to make sure you've done this first. So go ahead and get yourself a title. Add any title you want. I'm probably also gonna add a simple horizontal line. So that's HR. HR adds a simple horizontal line like that, or you can add it right after this, like that. Just make it look good for yourself. It doesn't matter if it's doesn't make sense right now and stuff. You can always edit that later on. Just create a simple app, scaffold app, and then we can change that later. Just to make sure that things looks consistent, I don't want the button to be blue because everything is black. So I'm going to change the button primary to button dark. So I'm going to save that. That will give me a button dark. That is kind of more to what I like. So I'm going to change the primary to dark. If you want to try other things, you can try warning. That's going to give you yellow. You can try danger. That's going to give you red. Like that. But I'm going to change it to dark. I want it to be consistent with the rest of the style of the app.
Got it. So you added.
Okay?
Yeah, bro. Cool. So just have to change now the email address and password.
Yeah. I'm not gonna change the one right now here. I'm gonna just add a new one. Then we can delete the ones if you don't want them. So like I can keep them in there, right? So for example, I'm gonna go to form. Between the first div and the form opening, I'm gonna create my own div to store that. So I'm gonna say div and just create a div here. And then what do I want here? I want there is at least you want a label and an input. You don't necessarily need the label. You can just put the input. So you can say input. Now input usually asks for a type. Like what do you want this guy to input? If it's a number, you need to put number. If it's a password, you want to put password. Now why does it make sense? Why does that matter? Well, because if you put an input type password, then guess what? It will give you this. It will mask your value. It will mask your value. So that's the only difference really. Because if you change this to text, save it, and I refresh the page. Now, if I put my password, it's gonna not be hidden. You see that? Yep. So really, that's the only difference. Now, this doesn't make it secure or anything. It's just on the UI front that's what happens. You still need to make sure it's properly encrypted, properly transferred to HTTPS and stuff. So it doesn't make it more secure. It's just a simple convenience that you don't have to code it yourself, right? So here I'm gonna say, okay, what is the first one I want to add? I want to add a text because I want people to be able to enter something like, let's say FB or something. Okay, so here when you put input type equals to text, you also want to give it its own class. So I'm gonna just put the same thing as the class. Just say class equals to form control, and then that is pretty much all I need. So if I refresh it, it gives it that.
Technically, you can just copy and paste the lines below it and change everything, right? The email and the pass.
Yeah. There are one of I would just maybe put a stock ticker, the symbol, stock symbol here first, just as a label. As a label. So that would change. I would need to give it a class of form label as well. So see, the only real thing you need is the class. really, because for I don't need this for anymore. If you want to, you can give it an ID here and change that, but for now I don't even need that. Just gonna remove this and just put it here, save it. Now, so I have stock symbol. I don't really need email addresses anymore, so I can just take all of this and just comment that out. So comment out, you highlight the whole thing and put control/. So control/ is just gonna comment that out.
I have a question in the next one. So for example, like email password, right?
Mm.
Email, it has ID equal example input email. So that's specifically because the input type is email, right? Does this ID apply if we just put text, or what does the ID actually mean?
Right. That's a really good question. So in web design, when you see me do ID, right, the big difference here is that, for example, if I want to change this, if I want to change 100,000 here, there is a few ways I can change this. Now, one way I can change this is I can say display one by targeting the class, right? So when I target a class, I say anything that take this class should get the effect defined here. You see that? So anything that define display one, that use the class display one, should get the effect that I specify in here. But what if I want to create an effect that is only targeted for this one and not every other display one? So for example, I give it an ID now, and I'm gonna say this is my main balance now. Okay, now I'm gonna say main balance. If I move out all of this main ID, if I move out all of this, let's say move out all of this here into this. Now what's gonna happen is that ID can only be specified on one element. So you cannot have a main balance here and then have a main balance here as well. You cannot have that. So ID is completely just is what it is. It's an ID. So when I put an ID in here, I can specify all of this, and they will not take effect on anything else except for the one thing that use this ID.
That use that ID.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's a CSS puller.
Yeah, basically there are two ways to color things, to style things. One is to use the classes, which is the class here. Class there is not exclusive. Anyone can use container. Display one, everyone can use display one. You can have multiple display one in one page. You can have multiple lead in one page. But ID, you only expect to see one of them. One, right?
Okay.
Yeah. So if I refresh the page, everything still works.
Sam,
Thanks.
Yeah.
That's cool. All right.
so basically, if you want to use the built-in Bootstrap CSS, you need to specify their class, right?
Yeah, all it does is to add this entire style sheet for you already. So all you need to do is to specify class, which is why usually when I encourage people to first develop the first version of web app, I encourage you not to write your CSS at all. Like, you should have no CSS file. If you're doing your own CSS file, you are very unproductive because you're not focusing on the feature of your app. Because Bootstrap already provides all of this for you for free. Like, it's all out of the box. It's more consistent. And the reason why you use Bootstrap is that everyone is familiar with that, so everyone can collaborate on your project, and you don't end up defining things that doesn't make sense. For example, you do something like MBL. No one knows what MBL means, but you understand that. No one understands that. What in here, it prevents that kind of situation. It makes sure everyone work with what they already have from Bootstrap, right? The second reason why it's good as well is that your stuff here may not target all the different browsers. So your code works in your browser, but it may work horribly on the Internet Explorer. Where if you were to use Bootstrap guarantees, make that guarantee, that baseline guarantee, that it will work across every browser. Meaning, what you see here is probably what somebody would see out of 1 million users. There will, all of them will see exactly the same results because they already take care of all the cross-browser compatibility that you as a single developer have no time to do, right? Unless you really want to, unless you're super dedicated, you're like, no, I think I'm fine. I'm gonna go and make sure that it works across all the browsers and do all my testing. Well, then maybe you could do that, right? But for the most part, if you're only one person, you want to create apps really fast, you want to be highly productive, then I encourage you to not have your CSS at all. Just completely use what Bootstrap provides. Like this file shouldn't even exist until very late on, when you want to add your own style and your own logo and stuff. But until very late on, like, it should be your project should be 80% done before you even think about having your own custom CSS.
Got it, bro. Another question, that's ID. The other one is called area described by. That is to describe basically like when you put a mouse over or something like that, right?
That is actually for the we call it, these are called accessibility settings. So the whole area is for accessibility. So for example, if somebody is viewing your website, but she or he is blind, and this person is reading your website through a reader.
Okay.
So
got it.
the reader is gonna tell you that is gonna speak to that person because that person is blind. He's gonna speak to that person and say, this is this component. It's trying to explain that. So this is all for good accessibility. If I don't use them, then the reader wouldn't know what that is. Right.
I see. So that extra line below input, called div ID, that's the one that is actually referring to the ARIA.
Where is it? Which one?
Oh, you don't have it anymore. It was in the email. Oh, I mean,
This one.
yeah, it was in. Yeah, no worries, man. It's okay. I
Yeah.
understand what you mean.
Yeah.
When you had the email before, it actually has the div ID for ARIA. Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah. So
Thanks.
you can start to create your forms and stuff. Somebody could enter that, could enter your stock symbol, let's say APPL, AAPL, and then enter like you can maybe put a target price. I don't know, can put a target price, I guess. So you're just gonna copy that. We can say our target price. So I want to get a notification when it hits that price. And now this is not text anymore, this is a number. So I'm gonna put a number in here, and then I have a number in here. So you see my number is up here. I can change the numbers up like that. Right? So or you can say I have a unit own. Same thing here, that allows somebody to just specify and say I own 7 AAPL 7 units of that. So I'm gonna remove all the password down here, don't need that. So I'm just gonna remove all of this as well. Now what about trying to give it a bit of margin at the bottom? So if I want to add a bit of margin between them, I can go ahead and say class, and I said margin bottom. MB stands for margin bottom. So I can say margin bottom, give it about 3, and that would give it a bit of margin at the bottom. I also need some margin bottom here, so I'm also gonna do the same thing here and just say give it some margin bottom 3. Now if you don't want to do that, the other alternative is you can say margin top. You can say give it a margin top, then you don't need the margin bottom. So I'm gonna give it top and bottom. So if I do that, save it, then I have, this is gonna have the 3 pixels of margin and 3 pixels of margin at the bottom. ML stands for margin left, MR stands for margin right. So if I do that, save it, then I get 3 on both sides and then left, right. Yeah, but for now I don't need all that. It's too fancy, so just gonna keep things simple and get it something like that. You can give it a placeholder. You can say something like placeholder, and we can give it like I guess we can put FB. So that's gonna create a placeholder so somebody knows what to expect. Here I'm also gonna put a placeholder in here. So I'm gonna placeholder, I'm gonna put 5. Like that. Just a simple placeholder. Then later on we can code our logic.
Can you go back to your yeah? Can I see your code? Okay, form label. Okay. What is form for compared to form class? There's class there, right? Like it says form label, but there's also in a template in Bootstrap it says it has a label for.
Oh, so
and example input one.
Yeah. So if I have an ID in here, I say this is a, let's say I put an ID in here, and this ID I could have something like this is the user at stock symbol, and this is my ID. Then I can say this label is for this ID. You can be more explicit for that, but for now I keep it simple. Yeah, if you put a for, then you want to put exactly that ID. So what is the label could be for this form, or could be for this input, or could be for this input, right? So how do we know what label is for what input? Well, we can just say add stock symbol. Well, that's this label. So it says that this label is for this input. For now we probably won't need that, so I'm just gonna remove that. But yeah, you can keep it there as well.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. Muli, are you doing okay so far?
Yeah, bro, still following.
Yeah. So there are a few. This is the accessibility thing that I just mentioned a little bit earlier. So you asked me about what is the ARIA thing? What does the ARIA means? What this is, the whole thing here is about accessibility. So if somebody is reading that from a reader, he or she would be read out. Okay, this is a form that you need to fill in, and what is the describe that, right? So that's the. You can do a lot of other things. For example, you can say select. So select allows this guy to add to one of the option. So for example, I'm just going to copy the select here, and I'm going to say add to one of the watch lists. So if I do a div and I give it another class, and I'm going to say mt3, so that's a margin top, and then I'm going to say select, and I'm going to say add to which watch list, or add to watch list, just simple add to watch list. And then I'm going to give it options, right? So I'm going to give it options. I'm going to say this is my current military stocks that I'm looking at, these are value stocks that I'm looking at, these are high dividend stocks that I'm looking at. Up to you how you want to define your watch list. And when you save it, you go back to stock screen. Now you have a simple watch list. So this is now there's no margin bottom, so I'm gonna add margin bottom. And here I'm gonna remove that, and I'm also gonna add a margin bottom at the top as well. So it's gonna be everything has margin bottom. Like that. Maybe this one I give it more margin bottom, give it about 4 pixels so that there's a bit more space, something like that. Now somebody could select that. See that? Pretty cool, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, so now you have a simple simple drop down that somebody could select.
Okay.
Yeah, so there are a lot of this stuff that are already in here. If you want to play around with it, you can see that there are other things you can do with it. There are also things like checks and radios. You can say, do you want to be notified or not notified? So all of this stuff, all you need to do is to just copy and paste, doing the same thing. So for example, you can copy this.
Are these literally what you call front end developers? It's like stuff that people do in front end.
Yeah, that's what they do.
Okay.
Make sure everything looks good and stuff. Initially it was harder because there is no like Bootstrap system and everyone have to code their own stuff. Now it's easier.
Yeah, so you have to know the codes, right?
Yeah, like
and build your own CSS and stuff.
Yeah, receive notification or do not receive notification for this stock. That's it. Save it.
Is WordPress default? Can we we installed WordPress for our website, right? So does it mean that right now Agora.ma we're using Bootstrap for all the CSS instead of WordPress CSS?
Well, almost all the websites you can think of, all the major themes on the WordPress you can think of, almost all of them have some semblance of that. If you inspect the code, you will see that a lot of them follow very similar ideas. For example, you see there is also the Avia, right? And then you see that there are, maybe not for Bootstrap, but maybe not for this one, but
because I can imagine like when you install a theme on WordPress, you install the CSS files as well, so that's why it's customized, right?
Yeah, if you want to find like Bootstrap themes, you can type like WordPress Bootstrap themes, and it give you all of this. There's a ton of like, there's a ton of like, there are maybe maybe 10,000 different themes built on Bootstrap. So yeah,
so
you can customize
our
as much as you
website could be even faster if we change the CSS to Bootstrap then, instead of using the theme of the
you can see does Astra theme use Bootstrap. Yeah, it says that they do use Bootstrap as well.
Oh, okay.
You're using Astra, right? I'm not sure if you're using Astra.
Yeah, we're using Astra.
Yeah, so it uses Bootstrap and then it adds their own customized classes and stuff.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, and I'll tell you how you know that is because one thing one of the big giveaway, if you look at how they do the layouts, you see that they actually Bootstrap layouts. So for example, this one here, if you see there are three different components, right? If I click on inspect, what you realize is if you inspect, you see that the div here, if you click on this one, you see that this is it uses this like wanted AV underscore wanted, and then the wanted itself, basically this is a style that WordPress first pioneered, and then later on you see like another one is said wanted. So what it says is that the wanted says that take only wanted of the space, wanted of the space. This is something that Bootstrap itself provides, and they build on top of that. So yeah, if you want to see how to do a layout, you can look at that. You can say grids. You can get something like that, right? So for example, let me just show you how it means. It's easier to show you than to explain that. So let me just go all the way up to the top of that before my table. So I have my table in here. Now before my table, I want to go ahead and let me just create that, and I want to paste this in just to create a row of 3 columns. So what I have is another container, which is something that you've done already. Then I create a row in a container. I have 3 different columns. Now within the 3 different columns, I'm going to save it now just to show you how it looks like. I have 3 different columns here, right? So I can go ahead and actually say this is my total return, annual returns, and I can have my total returns, and then finally I can have a percentage change. Okay, and within each of them, I'm gonna give it a H5. I'm gonna say 51.6%, and I'm gonna copy that, put that in, copy that, put that in, save that, run that. So I get my maybe not H5, maybe H4. So I'm gonna change, take that, I'm gonna say H4, save. Okay, something like that. And then I'm gonna change my container as well to give it a color in the background So let me go ahead and take content, take components. Let's give it a
That's cool because some of the stuff that we want to I want to input on algorithm MA, right, are not available on the theme. But now because with this, I could actually add because we need to. Normally, you would have to install the plugins and stuff to get those kind of like drag and drop feature where they just put in the code and it works, right? But now there's this, so we could. Hey, well, we can customize even more now.
Yeah.
Yeah, very, very useful. This is cool, man.
hero container bootstrap 5. Actually let's go and add a few. Let's go and add our card instead. Let's go and add a card. I'm gonna go and click on the card. And we're gonna just create the card copy. Just gonna copy that. Or let's say this one. Just gonna copy that. And the annual returns percentage change. I'm gonna change this to this figure. Save that. So if I click on this one, okay, now I have a card here. That's fine. So I'm gonna create the same card. Change this figure as well. And I'm going to change this figure as well, and then I'm going to put this card title to be 51.64% again, right? 51.64. Then I'm going to change the figure down to maybe 43%, 0.2%, and that's it. So yeah, so now I have my card subtitle. I want to change that to from annual returns. Put this in. I want to take total returns. Copy that. Put this in. But literally what you're seeing me doing here on the screen right in front of you is just basically just copy and pasting stuff, and then change that to where do I percentage change, take that, remove this, save it, and now I have three different stuff. Now you see the links are now blue color, which is something I don't like because it's not consistent. What do? I change the cut link. Now how do I change that? I can change that to I can change that to text dark. Now it's dark. And then another one, if I want it to be muted, I can say text muted. Muted means you cannot click on it right now. Maybe it's disabled or something. Then I can have text. Same thing here. I can say text dark. Here I can say text secondary. Save that. And then now I have text secondary. And then finally I have text. And here I have text dark. And maybe the final one I want to say this is remove account. So this is a bad operation because this is I need a strong warning for that sign. So I'm gonna say text warning. Text warning. So when I save that, now there's a big warning or maybe even text danger. Remove account. So there's a text danger. So that's telling you that hey, if you want to make sure, if you want to proceed, you better be careful what you're doing here because it's remove account. This is very common in web design. When something is so like critical, you would put in red color, for example.
Hey, I have a question, man. So this one's using HTML, and we're basically building from HTML, right?
Right.
But you also I remember you said that PHP is also a form of front end. What is the difference, man? PHP and I mean, isn't both resulting in HTML anyway?
Yeah. So no, PHP is not a front end language. So the web browser,
okay.
the web browser fundamentally understood HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. That's the only thing you understand. So
okay.
So whether you use R or whether you use Python or whether you use PHP or whether you use Java, whether you use Go, doesn't matter what language you use, the web doesn't understand any of that. The browser fundamentally understands HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. So everything you want to serve, they have to be in one of these three. And HTML itself is not even a language. HTML itself is really just a markup syntax. So all of this is markup. Some people will tell you that HTML is a language. I tend to disagree because to me, to qualify for a programming language, you need to be able to do basic arithmetics. For example, 1 plus 1. You can't do that in HTML. You can't actually specify 1 plus 1. There's no way to compute that arithmetics in HTML, right? So to me, HTML is not even a language. It's really just a markup template. It's telling you how to mark up your document so that it can render things properly. You know what I mean? Yeah. So
yeah, I get it.
Yeah, so PHP also on the same way, it's not really a front end thing. It's not HTML, CSS, JavaScript. So if PHP needs to compete, it competes with the server side language like Python, for example. But PHP really is a very old language and very not very performant. So for a long time, its dominance is because of WordPress, I would say. You know, a big part of why PHP is still relevant is because of WordPress, because WordPress is built on PHP. Yeah, but it's not a very popular choice anymore nowadays. Like a lot of times you will see people do things in Python and stuff. Why? Because when you want to build like machine learning features later on and stuff, you can very quickly import the Python library to do that, but you can't really find good PHP machine learning libraries to do what you want. Because every single data science libraries is going to be created either in R or in Python in the future, right? So learning PHP creates that kind of friction where you are trying to use a language and it doesn't have all that nice things you want to use and stuff.
Okay, and the JavaScript, like you know, JS, like JavaScript, right? So what is it used for in the front end?
Oh, it's used to do a lot of cool things. So let me show you what do we do here with Bootstrap 5 JavaScript. So it initially was created to add animations to websites. Initially, later on it becomes its own thing. But initially it was used to create like let me add the front. Let me add the contents first. Compiled CSS JavaScript CDN. Okay, I'm gonna copy the CDN. So I'm gonna take the two versions of CDN. Okay, so I already have the link, so I'm just gonna need the script. So yep, that's that. So copy that. I'm gonna put them in maybe here. Okay, so now I have the JavaScript. I have the Bootstrap 5 JavaScript component as well, and we can now use the JavaScript effect. So let's go and find a few utilities, interactions maybe. Pop over maybe. There are some of this animation stuff that is not possible without JavaScript, because JavaScript initially was created to create this kind of animation. For example, I'm trying to find an example. That's why I'm trying to go around here. Like if something is loading, you want to do something.
Right.
This is a lot of times later on. This stuff used to be created in JavaScript, but then later on CSS has matured so much that this thing can be done even without JavaScript. Like CSS itself, just use SVG and find a way to implement it natively in CSS. You know.
What's the major one these days that website use JavaScript for then?
For example, one way to do that is to have everything done in JavaScript, like a full stack JavaScript school. Like you see, Hacktivate is so successful in a way is because of that, right? And the way JavaScript is used nowadays goes into all kind of things. For example, building web front ends and stuff like that can completely be done in JavaScript. And you don't even need to code in like Python or PHP and then do the front end and stuff. So JavaScript allows you to code on both the front end and the back end. The back end using Node.js, the front end just using something like React. And React is a JavaScript framework that allows you to build all these amazing web components. So for example, if I search for it, I'll show you how it looks like. So this is React.js, and if we click into it, I can do a class on React if you want to, but maybe next time. Don't want to like put everything in one. Right? But you can see like, yeah, but you can create like very cool user interfaces that allows people to create to play around with values and have all this front end animation and stuff. I'll show you one very concrete design, one concrete example. Like End.Design is very famous for that. End.Design, this is by I think the End Financials group. The End Financials meaning the Alibaba group. You look at the components of it in it. You see like all this cool design. I'm gonna make it dark theme. Then you see, for example, you can have like let's go to the select. You compare the select that you see in here and you compare that to, let's say, the one you see in Bootstrap, and you see the difference. For example, in the tag mode, you can create this. Now this whole thing is done in JavaScript, so it's very, very cool. You can say Lucy, Jack, Adam, and you can even copy a lot of, like, I can go ahead and put something like Nyoko.
So this is like the Bootstrap but for JavaScript and
for React. It's like the Bootstrap but for React.
For React.
Yeah, and you can create a lot of like fancy animations and stuff like that as well with this.
And everything is, we can use it for free.
This is open source, yeah.
Oh, this is open source?
Yeah.
Oh.
So you can create a model, you can say display a model from here, do this. So yeah, React is very popular. React is used, it's by Facebook initially, but now it's also an open source project. You can do a lot of like very awesome.
Yeah, so I can do everything building a website from React. No, I don't need to do everything from. Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
So you know, just use React and no need to worry about CSS and all that stuff as well, right?
You will. I mean, it's hard to say that, oh, once you know JavaScript or React, you probably don't need CSS. For the most part, it's kind of true. It's largely true. Like the whole idea that I told you, that if I'm mentoring somebody to create a web app, I would say that don't even write CSS first, because almost everything you want to do, you should do. There is already systems for you to do it on Bootstrap. If you take away the need to write CSS, you make your code a lot more maintainable, because you're not introducing the best kind of code is the code you don't write. The code you don't write doesn't create bugs. The code you write potentially create bugs. You know what I mean? So
yeah.
So the best kind of code, the best developers learn how to not write code, because the more code you write, the more vulnerability you introduce. The best kind of code is the code you don't write. The code that runs the fastest is the code you don't write. The code that you maintain the least is the code you don't write. The more code you write, the more things you need to maintain in the future. When you leave the company, there's a whole huge bunch of legacy that somebody have to go and hire to maintain that stuff for you, right? So the best kind of code is the code you don't write. In a way, when you force somebody to just use HTML and create the whole web app, see how much can we get done just without this custom.css. If I remove custom.css, just completely remove this all together, just remove all of that together, look at our app, it's still not too bad, right? It's still not too bad. It doesn't have the cool effect anymore, but it's still not too bad. It gives us all the effects we want without us writing a single line of CSS. So I think the same thing is kind of true for a lot of these things, whether you do things in React or not. When you learn things, when you find out like producing work in React using React system, it takes away a lot of the need to go and focus on the small details of CSS, changing this, adding some padding, adding some margin, all that crazy, tiny details, So
that's cool, man. I think, hey, it's already, I'm mindful of the time. It's the weekend for people as well. And I actually have to go as well.
Yeah,
so
no problem.
This is a good start, man. Thanks a lot. I think this helps. I learned quite a bit here.
Yeah, no problem, man.
Mo, did you learn as well?
I learned a lot, but to implement it to our website, I still.
It's okay. We can play around with the bootcamp, man. Like if we need to.
I think it's a different Bootstrap as well, right? If you want to implement it to our website, we have to install the Bootstrap to our website as well.
Do we? I mean, like
you
we
can check.
Just put in the code, right?
You can check and see whether or not it has already been there. But you can just go ahead and add like a simple line in there and into your page and see if it works. Most likely it's already out of the box. You don't have to install anything.
Oh, Bootstrap 5 is already out of the box on every WordPress.
Not on every WordPress, but most likely your team is using WordPress. I don't know exactly whether your team is using WordPress, but you can make an educated guess by looking at the source code of the website. Yeah, that's kind of it. So this is like part one of it, the front end. We can slowly code the back end as well and talk about how do we inject the real data, because right now all the data are not real yet. So how do we make it real? How do we add API and stuff like that? So those are things you also need to learn at some point. But my point is that once you create the layout, you think about how the user experience looks like, then you can think about how to write the logic later, and then put everything together. Week 4, week 5 of module 4, module 5, you can already launch your simple stock screen. Give it your own name, ask somebody to design a nice logo. That's it.
Thanks, man. Let's do this again next week if you're free, man.
All right. Okay. Thank you, everyone. Been a good time.
Okay. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks a lot, bro.
Yo,
thanks a lot, man. Okay. Have a good weekend.
Have a good weekend too.
Guys.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Take care.
Thank you.